All right, welcome back to another episode of the F1 Casuals. We promised you, no, we didn't promise you anything, but we said we'd hope we get an episode in before Baku. Greg's back, Mike's back. It's all three of us. I'm pumped. We're fired up. It's Sunday night. Let's do this.
Let's get into it, boys. Welcome back to the pod, brother. We missed you.
It's an honor and a privilege, and special kudos to you guys for holding it down last week. That was a great epi. Great work, boys.
We really appreciate the positive support that you're always bringing. And you, right before we started recording, some artwork just arrived for you. That's going to be part of the background pretty soon. What do you got there?
Yeah, show the crowd.
It's just a crowd favorite, Spa-Francorchamps.
Ooh,
Belgian
beautiful.
Grand Prix.
that's nice. That's a classic. What are those, like 50s cars? Something
Great
like
question.
that. Professor.
Yeah, circa 1948 to 52.
Oh,
there.
man. Who
Yeah.
knows? But that's okay because it's a great poster. Excited to see both of our sets kind of come together. We got a few things on the way as well.
Excited to build it out.
Quick shout out if you've noticed, I'm wearing a Newcastle United jersey. There's a bit of a crossover with F1 and soccer fans. Greg's going to hate me for this one because he's a Spurs fan, but my God, I've never seen anything like that game this morning. The Magpies absolutely took it to the Spurs. 6-1. Let's go. Champions League around the corner. Don't hate me. I know Saudi oil, yada, yada. I've been a fan since 2007, okay? God love it.
I'm glad I slept in today.
A lot of, it's unfortunate. But I'll tell you what, you know what the Geordies love, the Newcastle fans?
Beating Spurs.
Beating Spurs, but you know what they love it even more? A nice can of beer.
Let's go.
Boxing Rock is back. They're not in Newcastle, I don't think.
Not yet.
They're not international. They're going to be soon when we get them over to Greg. But what do we got here? I've got a Fusion Cold IPA. This was like a limited edition, and now it is fully on shelves. I don't really know. They just send us stuff every week. It's great.
Yeah.
But Mike's got something awesome there.
We got the new can of Hunky Dory right here, fellas.
Ooh, very close
looking
to
real nice.
BNV colors there, too.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Like
love
that
it.
can, man, out of Shelburne, Nova Scotia.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Cheers.
Cheers, Greg.
Cheers, guys. Some
Yeah.
local Oregonian cider here.
There we go.
Okay.
We promise we're going to get that Boxing Rock to you within the next month. I'm still just like putting off finding out if it's legal to ship beer across the border. It's a simple Google search. I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but whatever. It's Boxing Rock, and they're here to stay. So let's get into this episode. I'm super excited. It's kind of an off week because we did our Baku preview last week, and we'll do our Baku preview next week, of course. So we're going to do some fun stuff, and we're going to start it off with some F1 trivia. There was a question on Jeopardy a couple days ago. I don't know what day. There's like 8 Jeopardy episodes a day. And it was actually an F1 themed question. It was about the Triple Crown, like the Monaco and Le Mans 24. It was more about Indy, actually. The answer was like, what's the third race? And it was Indianapolis 500. But whatever. In the spirit of that, we're doing F1 trivia. It's Greg versus Mike. We've got 6 questions, and we've got a tiebreaker 7th question just in case, because there are winners and losers on F1 Casuals.
If you're not first, you're last.
If you're not first, you're last. Are you boys ready?
Let's go.
All right. Here we go. No peeking either.
Tunnel vision right here.
Here
Got my
we
blinders
go.
on.
All right. Question number 1. And this is not an easy one. There's a couple that you should definitely both get, hopefully.
Not nervous
But
at
this
all.
is not an easy one. As everyone knows, Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, they've been the dominant constructors for the last, 15 years. You've had McLaren and Renault, but, that's been the top 3 since we've really started paying attention. Well, I speak for myself there, Mike. You've been paying attention for a longer time. But, and now listen closely to this question. What was the last pole position that wasn't a Ferrari or a Mercedes or a Red Bull in dry weather?
Wow. The last non-Mercedes, Red Bull, or Ferrari to be on pole.
In the dry.
In the dry. Because what the obvious answer would be like
Be
Lance
Lance,
Stroll.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Fernando?
Ooh, okay. Fernando.
When, though?
In the
With who?
Ferrari or the Renault?
Yeah, it would have to be in the Renault.
In the Renault. Okay.
Yeah.
Greg's answer is the
That's a great
Fernando
answer.
and the Renault.
That's a long time ago.
Well, it's been a while.
Yeah. Kimi Räikkönen with Lotus? Or, yeah.
Okay. Answers are locked in. Kimi with Lotus. Greg, Fernando with Renault. You're both wrong.
Who was it?
Unfortunately, it was 2014. It was our boy who we were talking about last episode, Felipe Massa in the Williams.
Wow.
Oh, gross.
I never would have guessed
Gross.
that. Where was it? Silverstone?
It was the Austrian GP, and they actually had a 1-2, him and Valtteri.
Never would have guessed that. That's a great question, though.
That's a doozy.
Yeah, and
That's a
that's
tough
something
one,
we
boys.
should know.
That is
Yeah.
a tough one, though.
We've just been whitewashed with for Mercedes dominance for
Yeah.
8 years and Red Bull prior to that.
Yeah. So don't forget Williams. They used to be
That's a
great,
great
and even
question.
like in the 2010s, they were competitive. So it's kind of a shame they aren't anymore. All right.
Wow.
Still
All right.
0-0. We're moving to the second question.
Yeah.
What do I got here? Okay, this is a much more recent question. There are only 2 drivers this year that have both finished the race, and 2 gained positions in every race. Who are those 2 drivers?
Finished every race this year.
Finished all 3 and
And gain positions.
gained positions in all 3. And we've talked about both of these drivers doing it as such. At least one.
Okay.
All right, lock your answers in, fellas.
Yuki Tsunoda and George Russell.
Yuki Tsunoda and George Russell.
Wow.
Greg?
Carlos
Yeah.
and Lewis.
Good answers.
Carlos and Lewis. Oh my goodness. Well, I'll tell you what. If you guys combine your answers, you got them all. It's Yuki Tsunoda and Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, nice.
Wow.
Okay.
Great question, Mark.
All right.
Yeah.
You know what? Since I'm a nice guy, half points for both.
All
of you.
right. We'll take
Let's
it.
go.
Yeah.
0.5 versus 0.5.
And we don't look like complete idiots, so that's good too.
Oh, this is another tough one, too. Name a driver that has won an F1 race over the age of 40.
Nicky Lauda.
Nicky Lauda.
Right.
Lauda.
That is Greg's answer. Nicky Lauda.
Yeah, that's a solid answer. Damon Hill.
Fernando.
Damon
Oh, yeah.
Hill. We've got Nicky Lauda and Damon Hill. I'm afraid to tell you it's neither of those. You were so close, Mike. His father,
Graham Hill. Yeah.
Oh,
Jack Brabham,
Yeah.
Nigel Mansell.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was like a few other like racers from like the 40s or 50s or whatever, but I didn't recognize
Yeah,
them.
that makes sense. It's just some of their lifespans weren't that long. So as soon as you said
Yeah.
Nicky Lauda, I was like, yeah, he outlived them all. So
It makes sense. You would have thought Nicky or even like Alain Prost when he came back and won, but no, none of the above. So 0.5 versus 0.5. 0.5 to 0.5. We're going to the fourth question here. There's been a fair amount of father-son duos in F1. We all know that. So I'm not going to ask you to name one because that's easy. Name 3 pairs of father-son duos. That have-
Schumachers, Verstappens, and Hills.
Woo! Okay.
oh. Gilles and Jacques Villeneuve.
Yes, that's one.
Oh boy.
Ooh, geez. All right, Greg, lock it in.
Oh, I'm tapping out.
All right, you got the one with Jacques and Gilles. The other 3, Nico and Keke Rosberg.
Obvious.
Come on.
I hate it.
I'm such a Lewis Hamilton fan. It's embarrassing.
You're gonna hate this one even more. Nelson Piquet
Piquet.
and Nelson
Nelson
Piquet
Piquet
Jr. Oh, and here's a crazy one that I didn't know. Kevin Magnussen and Jan Magnussen.
Yan.
Yeah.
I did not know that one.
Yeah, so 7 different duos, and as we've gone through a bunch of family, uncles, nephews, cousins, F1 is family.
Very much so, yeah.
Shout out Vin Diesel. All right, let's move on into question number 5. What's the score here? 1.5 to 0.8, because we'll give you
Yeah, we'll give him one
You
for
got
the,
0.3.
for the Villeneuves.
for the Villeneuves.
I'll take it.
This
and
is
kudos to Mark here for turning what was in practice a 30-minute exercise into probably no more than 5 minutes of your podcast listening time.
Damn
You're a
right.
pro, Mark.
Another tough one, but if you are a true F1 fan, you should know this or you're canceled.
No pressure.
Who is the only female driver to score points in an F1 race?
Danica Patrick.
What is this, NASCAR?
Yeah, I don't know. Should know. We all should know.
It's from a while back. This is more of a learning experience, this question here. I'll tell you what her name is. Her name's Maria, nickname Lella Lombardi. She scored half points. Oh, what do you know? We're scoring half points too right now. Back in, I believe it was 74, the only female to score F1 points. There's been 5 total females in F1. 3 of them never failed to qualify for a race because back in the day, in qualifying, you had to actually like qualify for the race.
Yeah, for the race, exactly.
Like you could not qualify.
Like
and
they had
that's all you get.
22 grid spots and 26 cars qualifying.
Which I didn't know. So that was interesting. But 2, including Lela, actually qualified for a race. And congratulations. She scored points. There hasn't been a female in F1 since the 90s. And I think that was when there's 92. And she, I forget her name, but she failed to qualify. But we've got Jamie Chadwick, who was absolutely dominating the W Series last year. I think she's in Formula Academy this year, the new version of that. And you've heard some of the F1 drivers on the grid. She is the name that comes to mind when we talk about the next female driver in an F1 seat. We want to see it. We hope we see it, and we hope we see it soon.
Yeah, check out her passing reel on YouTube. Quality overtakes there. She's fast.
She's fast.
Love to see her in Formula One.
Absolutely, and still pretty young, so a bright future ahead for her. That was a tough one, guys. I'm sorry. The more I look at these trivia questions, I'm like, damn, I'm a bit of a dick.
No, you're challenging us, and we appreciate you for it. So, we got any questions left?
We've got one because, you know what? Actually, we might have one more because there could be a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
If you get this one, then we take away your 0.3 points, and then it's 1.5 all.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Ready? Everyone listening? Listen closely. The length of an F1 track is always the same.
Correct.
305 kilometers. Some tracks you do more laps, some tracks you do less, but it always adds up to 305 kilometers, except for one track. Which track is it?
I already know the answer. Yeah.
Greg?
Monaco?
Yeah, he's right.
Hey,
Yeah.
very nice, boys. Very nice.
go.
All right, okay. Award the points.
Legacy grandfather clause there,
yeah.
I think, on Monaco.
Yeah, and Greg said it first, so points awarded to Greg. We've got a tiebreaker. We've got a tiebreaker here, folks.
I knew if I raised my finger.
And I feel like you're both going to get this one too. But who is the youngest driver to win an F1 race?
Max Verstappen.
Mike's the winner. He got it in first. Max Verstappen, 17 years old. Incredible. He's a heck of a talent. We know. Congratulations. There's no prize awarded. It's just pride at this point. But maybe we'll do prizes down the road. You never know.
GG.
Marginally less embarrassment. That's what your prize is.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I can live with that. Yeah, I'm thoroughly satisfied. Thank you. I'd like to thank my pit crew, all the engineers, everybody at the back of the factory. Greg, you're a hell of a competitor, and we'll see you next week in Baku.
Incredible acceptance speech there. Yeah, your biggest prize is you're not a Tottenham Spurs fan.
Yeah.
Come on.
Wow, I'm sorry. I didn't.
Glory, Man United. Let's have it.
Did him dirty there. All right, moving on. Great trivia there, guys. We'll do it again, and we'll get even better scores because we're gonna learn up on all our F1 knowledge. So, some sad news in Formula Regional this week. A driver had spinal injuries, drove over a sausage curb. Very unfortunate. And that's today's topic. It's sausage curbs. Why do they exist? Why are they on track? And what kind of safety risks do they pose? Because this isn't a new concept here, folks. This isn't a new phenomenon. There have been multiple really bad accidents because of sausage curbs. And if you don't believe me, you can look it up on YouTube yourself. There was an insane crash in 2019 in F3 at Monza on that last high-speed right turn. Alexander Peroni just launched off the sausage curbs that were just off track. You could barely see them. It didn't even look like, it looked like he went off a ramp 6 feet high, but it was just a tiny little curb, and he gets launched into the fence. Thankfully, he survived that, actually walked away. So no harm, no foul there, I suppose. And then you had potentially the craziest crash in Formula racing history.
Yeah.
Back in 2018, Sophia Flörsch, who was 18 at the time, this was in an F3 European Championship race in Macau. And she went off a sausage curb, which launched her off a car in front of her, flying off the track. It looks like a torpedo into a 2-story high like broadcasting booth. And there's like a little hole on the second floor of it where, you know, like photographers will take pictures. She flipped and her head went in that little space. It's the only reason she survived. And their car came crashing down and injured a few people that were working on the track. Insane race. Also on YouTube if you're into watching crashes. I mean, it is kind of, as long as no one dies, it's pretty crazy to watch.
It's gnarly.
It's gnarly.
It's a crazy one, Mark.
It's a crazy one. And I knew about this. I had no idea that she was launched off the sausage curbs. I thought she just went off the back of the car, but it was the curbs that got her to the height that really launched her off that car. Thankfully, she survived. She did have some pretty bad injuries, but she's since recovered. She's actually in Formula Academy, so shout out to her. And we've got, I mean, this is, like I said, this is nothing new. There was an article in motorsport.com from 2014 asking why do sausage curbs still exist and why haven't they been taken off the tracks? They pose way too much of a hazard compared to, you know, what they're supposed to do, which is discourage drivers from going off the track limits. Shout out no track limits.
Shout out no track limits.
So, I mean, we've have numerous examples, F1, F2, F3 throughout Formula racing of these sausage curbs doing a lot of damage. And I don't know what the deal is. I mean, this has been going on for over a decade. So my question to you guys is, why are sausage curbs a thing? Why are they still in Formula racing? And how do we get them out?
Well, I think first and foremost, let's talk about the name for a second. One of those great Formula One terminology instances.
That's true.
I throw porpoising in the mix, but just so decidedly British.
I think
Sausage curb.
I think the only good thing about a sausage curb is its name.
Yeah, or also known as a sleeping policeman.
Oh,
Nice. Also British.
wow. Okay. Is that another
You've never heard that one before?
for a sausage curb?
Yeah, exactly.
A sleeping policeman.
Sleeping policeman. Yeah. Go on.
Wow.
Run him over, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
That's more so like maybe residential London, whatever, UK, but yeah.
Yeah.
Sleeping policeman for sure.
It's a speed bump, basically.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, understanding, first and foremost, the speed that these cars are going. But, it's the, let's say, Formula One FIA's way of protecting or discouraging cars from exceeding track limits, therefore increasing their times and actually punishing them in a more so literal way than what we see with times being deleted in qualifying in the actual race. So, you know, fastest lap could be deleted or qualifying times could be deleted for exceeding track limits. But yeah, to physically watch people be put in jeopardy with Peroni's accident, that sausage curb is at the exit of a high-speed corner, and it's a little strip. And if you look close, it's barely painted anyways. It's just in the worst possible spot for a livery that is, you know, ride height, couple inches above the ground. Sophia's accident is just, you know, it's horrific. Thank God, absolutely nobody was seriously injured in any of these incidents. Credit to the safety that and the research that goes into not just the vehicles themselves, but also the tracks themselves to make sure that everybody's safe and we can all enjoy it and document it in a safe way. We've continued to see these events. You could argue that Lewis and Max's incident in Monza was caused by the sausage curb at the first chicane. You know, Max pops up regardless of car positions and whatever. You know, Max popped up because of that. Drivers, you know, to this season and as recently as some last season, I think Lando was quoted in the press protesting Sausage Kerbs in certain areas. I can't remember the track he's
George Russell, Seb Vettel, you know, like big names.
So this continues to be an issue for Formula One drivers and the safety of not just them, but, you know, we've seen cars exiting the track and putting fans at risk. And, you know, we've seen that before in the past too, in much worse circumstances. So again, I'm glad the conversation is happening, but let's find an alternative method. You know, I think the track, what is it? Paul Ricard in France. They've got like this. You see like the French flag almost printed out onto the track.
Those are red and blue.
Exactly. Yeah, those are strips to slow the car down. So maybe that should be on the exit of corners too.
Well, that sounds perfect. Why wouldn't they do that? I mean, is it a cost thing? I like, and this isn't. I'm not coming after Liberty Media because this is not a new thing. Like we said, this is an FIA issue, and there's other ways, like you said, Mike, to slow down a car. I mean, you've got gravel traps, which not just slow down a car, they usually end a day. So I can see why maybe they'd steer away from that. But yeah, these strips in Jean-Paul Ricard, why don't we just, I mean, I assume it's like a different kind of paint almost as opposed to.
It's like fly paper.
It's like rumble strips.
Yeah, exactly, almost. Greg. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like fly paper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's constant mix of like sand, whatever, and paint and stuff, and it's raised, and it definitely is going to slow your car down.
Yeah. And by the same token, I can't believe we're pumping the tires on our least favorite track in Formula One, Paul Ricard, the parking lot. But from a safety perspective, I think there's a lot you can take from it for sure.
And don't think that just because it's a safe track, that's why it's boring. It's just boring because it's a terrible layout.
Yeah,
100%.
All right, folks. So I think we've solved it. We've solved the sausage curb issue. Just
send the check to BMV Studios.
Yeah, BMV Studios. Yeah, let's start a GoFundMe. Let FIA know that we've done it. You don't need to pay us. You just need to give us an official F1 podcast, and that's it. Paint the fly paper at every track where sausage curbs are, and hey, everyone's happier.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in the future, but just let's not see these types of incidents in the future.
Okay, moving on. So last segment there with the sausage curbs, I mentioned F2, F3. I think I've even mentioned Formula Regional, which is new to me earlier in the episode. So we're going to do a quick breakdown of Formula racing. Obviously, F1 is the pinnacle. It's the pinnacle of motorsport. It's the pinnacle of Formula racing. Under that, it's Formula E is new, and it's not, the E is electric, so it's not necessarily part of like the next one's F2, F3, which are sort of like the F1 feeder series.
It's a new category for sure.
It's a new category, but it still has very, very capable drivers. Stoffel Van Dorn, former F1 driver, is in Formula E, and some other, like Dan Ticktum, some great drivers. But it was created more than anything to be a vessel for research.
Exactly.
For Formula racing. So obviously, you know, the Earth's heating up, and combustion is one of those reasons. So we're trying to not do that so much. So with the electric cars, now, obviously, with the motorheads, and I get it. I mean, we had a reel with the V10s. We get it. You hear the high pitched whine of the Formula E cars, and it's like, I don't know how I could get into this, but they look pretty sleek, and it's a very cool category because they're not just doing research in terms of better power units that don't use oil, but aerodynamics, other things like that. I mean, you go look at the 2023 Formula E car. It looks completely different. I mean, it's open wheel, but it's very futuristic looking.
Yeah, very. And, it's the caveat for Formula One, definitely, with a goal of being carbon neutral by 2030. It's great that we have this series leading the way for emissions research that obviously will transpire into commercial vehicles and things like that as well.
There you go.
Your everyday road car. Definitely a lot of that technology was developed by these companies that compete in these open wheel series.
Very
and
true.
Coming to Portland International Speedway in June. So
that
firsthand viewing and some additional content, much the way our immersive journalist at the Australian GP, Brian McDonald, was able to step up. So I'll hit us with some real
Oh,
Excellent.
that's
Yeah,
sick. Yeah,
we're stoked.
actually a little of a foreshadowing there. I'm going to talk about some of the tracks in Formula E. We'll get to that at Sprint to the Finish line. I don't want to spoil it. So you got Formula E, and then as I mentioned, F2 feeder series to F1, F3 feeder series to F2. You've had multiple great drivers in F1 that have won F2 championships. You got Charles Leclerc, you got Lance Stroll, you got George Russell. Right now, Arthur Leclerc, his brother, is in F2. How sick would it be if you had an Arthur Charles Ferrari team? I was thinking about that earlier today.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Maybe
Brothers.
on the horizon. You never know. Yeah, the brothers.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. After Formula 3, this is when things get a little confusing. Formula Regional, and that has multiple organizations or championships under that. You've got the America's Cup, which was started in 2018. That is the United States. There's actually you're potentially going to see some Canadian races soon. How about Halifax? Bring us back.
Yeah, we had an Indy event here in the 90s for
that'd be
a couple
sick.
of years. Yeah, so
We'd love that. You got the European Championship by Alpine. They just want you to know they are sponsoring it. They're probably funding the entire thing. You got the Japanese Championship, the Middle East Championship, the Oceania Championship, and the India Championship. Those last three were just added in 2023.
just on the regionals, I think this is a great program. First, basically the entire history of open wheel championships and going into karting and things like that. Children 12 years old, if they wanted to compete and make their way into Formula One, they had to move to Europe and travel around basically the world, but essentially be based out of Europe. And that can be very, very expensive, obviously. So if you didn't have sponsorship, if you didn't come from family money, whatever it may be, it made it very difficult. So this is great that these kids, in many cases, and young adults are able to compete in their regions, makes it more affordable, less stress on the environment, travel purposes, things like that. And also gives a lot of other people opportunity that might not have that under the old situation, I guess.
Yeah, I should have mentioned actually it was a kind of different classification before, I think 2018, 2019 is where they changed everything. Like used to be GP2, GP3. You got that hilarious quote from Fernando saying GP2 engine.
GP2 engine.
And I didn't understand that because I was like, does he mean F2? What the hell is this? But F2, formerly known as GP2, and then you had GP3, now F3. Just making it a little bit easier for all of us. And you talk about Formula racing being mostly in Europe. Well, we've got some high caliber Formula racing in America. You've got the IndyCar. I watched the Long Beach Street Circuit last week because I need Formula racing in my life right now, and it was a lot of fun. It was a good time. We have Romain Grosjean is in IndyCar. You've got Marcus Harrison, two former F1 drivers. Romain, of course, being the man on fire. Another crazy crash you should definitely check out. That is unbelievable. And in Japan, you've got Super Formula and Super Formula Lights. And we're not going to go
Great
any
series.
further because there are like 30 to 40 other Formula organizations around the world. Junior, a bunch of different stuff. But lots of racing, pretty cool. If you want to break it down even further, just search Formula Racing Wikipedia and enjoy it. Your heart's desire, all you need. All right, before we get into Sprint to the Finish line, we got one more headline. We talked about this last week, Mike. It's a month off, and we thought maybe there'd be some teams that are going to get some big upgrades or turn around from some poor performances in the past. Maybe McLaren, you never know. But George Russell has come out, and he said, expect big changes from Mercedes coming into Baku. Now, he's a bit of a big talker, but I believe him this time around because he's saying in this month, they have gained more time and performance in the car than the entire winter break. So I am very happy about my podium picks right now. And Greg, you weren't here last week, so you didn't get a chance to make those. So why don't you have at it?
Well, this is a very fortunate segue. And much like you, Mark, I'm going to lean into Mercedes in Baku. I think they're going to have a reliable car, a more competitive car, and perhaps some overzealous Red Bull drivers. And I'm thinking of one in particular, the guy who's leading the pack, dusting everyone this year, kind of making a mockery of lap times. But I'm going to predict on the podium, a George Russell win.
Ooh, I had a feeling you were going there.
Wow, that's a hot take.
There it is.
Yes, it is.
We love it.
And somebody's got to do it. I'm happy to lay down for this one. But I think it's probably going to be the product of some Max and Lewis fireworks late in the race.
Ooh.
Causing Max to fall back in the order, if not be DNF'd from the whole ordeal. But I'll say that Checo is going to be sandwiched in between he and Lewis, who will make up some places and come in third.
Wow.
That's my podium. It's spicy.
Wow.
But that's what I'm here to do.
You just gained a bunch of Mercedes fans, I think.
I would watch that race.
You sure would. I love that.
Baku, I know we doubled down on Baku last week, but it's one of my favorite races just because of the pure chaos of the track setup and, I mean, the history of what's gone on there over the years. So I'm pumped. Been too long without a race. Jonesing for one.
I am so excited. Like, bring on the red lights. Drop that flag. Let's go.
Baku, baby. We're 6 days away now. Well, 5 days away from qualifying. No, 5 days away from the sprint race. How could I forget?
It's going to be epic.
Oh, my gosh. We're going to have quite a weekend. Can't wait. Well, that's a great podium. I'm all in. We're all in on Mercedes right now. Look at us.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Growing up.
R&D, yeah.
Love it. All right. It's everyone's favorite time. It's the sprint to the finish line. Günther Steiner has released a new book, Surviving to Drive, and we've got a hardback of that coming our way from the UK right now. Super excited for that. He's chronicling, life in F1, including some more recent events where he said, right around the time that they got rid of Nikita Mazepin, two guys dressed in dark clothing at night approached him from a dark vehicle. And he thought, well, this looks like trouble. Günther, he's got, incredible instincts. And he got the hell out of Dodge, but he thinks those were actually Russians.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that's a little scary, but I mean, I trust Günther to always stay out of trouble. He knows what he's doing.
Fast on his feet for a mountain man. I like it.
You got that right. So check out that book if you can. I'm sure there's audio, ebooks, whatever you need. You don't have to get the hardcover, but we want to put it on display eventually. So,
man, a Günther Steiner narrated audiobook would just be unbelievable.
It actually exists. I don't know if you knew that, Greg, but Haas already posted an excerpt of him narrating it. It's phenomenal.
Incredible.
Oh yeah. If you want to go,
hear more tales of doors being kicked in.
Right. If you need something to go to sleep to, it's Günther Steiner reading his own book.
That's your lullaby.
To Drive. That's your lullaby. And on the other hand, Nikita Mazepin, he wants the Canadian federal court to direct Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly to immediately drop the sanctions against him so he can race again in Canada. Now, as you know, when Russia invaded Ukraine, Mazepin was let go and sanctions were placed on Russian athletes around the world. Since then, European courts have ruled that Mazepin can race in Europe if he has the opportunity to, and he has already raced in Asia with Le Mans.
Stick to the turntables, Mazepin. DJ Mazepin, get that fuck out of here.
He's the worst, and he can't race in Canada, and that's on the F1 calendar, and he's like, this severely prohibits my chances of getting back in F1. It's like, oh yeah, that's what's doing it, Nikita. Not all the spins you had in that debacle of a year you had in F1. Good Lord. So in typical Canadian politician fashion, though, the minister did not respond to that within the 90-day deadline, and it's a moot point.
Non-issue.
Non-issue. Not going to happen, Nikita. See ya, pal. Here's a bit of a weird, kind of twisted story. A German newspaper, Die Aktuelle, probably.
The actual.
The actual, that's what it means. Thank you, Professor. So Die Aktuelle, they published an article claiming they had the first interview with Michael Schumacher since before his ski crash. And then in the interview, I believe they revealed that it was actually an AI that they tuned up to be like Michael Schumacher. And they were like, oh, but the answer's like, look how like lifelike it sounds like it's Michael. And it's like, I don't think that's the problem or issue here. It's how that is a horrible thing to do. And you know how private the Schumachers are about Michael's situation. People still really have no idea what his condition is. If you watch his his Netflix documentary. They kind of allude to the fact that he's not really there at all, I don't think. But yeah, that's most likely a German tabloid and a pretty shit move on their part.
Yeah, words can't express, the frustrations and the pain that I'm sure the families bring, because they want nothing more than Michael to be healthy and happy and be able to potentially do these types of interviews. So just crossing every line possible. And I hope they are heavily compensated for the pain caused by this facade.
Mark, you're going to have to break out the wheel gun for me here too, because that newspaper, that is absolutely shameful. Obviously a legend of the sport and a human being, and, a family involved. So
yeah,
unbelievable.
It's so, I mean, if you watch, once again, alluding back to that documentary, Mick is interviewed towards the end and talks about how his relationship with Michael, how it would have changed over the years if he could have a relationship with him now. And I don't think, before 2013, Mick and Michael really talked about motorsport too much. I don't think Mick showed as much interest as he did. And maybe he really took it more seriously because of what happened to Michael. But he talked about how having that relationship where that language they spoke with one another was motorsport. He never got to have that opportunity, and it just breaks your heart. And I hope they sue that newspaper into oblivion. Okay, pop culture lovers, here we go. We got rumors Spanish tabloids are. Mike's like, what the hell is this? Don't worry.
I saw the tagline.
I love this
in the talking points. And
Yeah.
just all right, Mark.
My girlfriend's gonna love this.
Let her fly.
This
brother.
one's for Jill and Rilla if she listens. You never know. And Sam.
Can we get a rendition though? How sick would that be?
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Right?
Well, I've seen the memes already. There's great ones like Fernando to Alpine. We are never, ever getting back together. But let me get to it. Fernando Alonso, rumored to be dating or, I don't know, going around Spain with Taylor Swift. Some Spanish tabloids have said they've got pictures. That's really funny. All the podcasts that we follow, F1 casuals that are like F1, but also like outside the grid, are just losing their minds over this because it's many crossovers of many different worlds. And I mean, Fernando's only like, what is he, 40, 41? And Taylor's like 34. So it's not that bad.
Yeah, similar net worths potentially too as well.
Ooh.
Yeah, Fernando's sneaky paid.
Yeah.
Why? How difficult it is to get tickets for this Taylor Swift tour. That could he could be eclipsed shortly, I'm sure. But are we going to hear a Taylor Swift ABBA cover? Is that potentially what we're walking into here?
You know what we could do? I mean, speaking of AI,
How deep are we going down this rabbit hole, boys? Let's do it.
I'm pretty sure there's a website where we could get Taylor Swift to sing Fernando.
Let's do it.
We're gonna make that happen, folks.
100%.
That's not in bad ill will. Like, that's no problem there. We're not crossing any lines with that one. I think.
Would love to see this materialize into something real.
Okay, we're going to do it. We're going to make it happen. There's got to be an AI website out there. I'm going to do some research, but if you are an AI expert yourself,
Yeah, hit us up in the comments.
hit us up in the comments. Let us know. F1 is targeting a 24-race season next year. We talked about how Liberty Media wants more races. I didn't think they were going to do it this quickly, but they're going to add to the calendar. I guess, yeah, we knew this was going to happen. I think the biggest thing, though, is like logistically, you look at the calendar. We've got Baku this week and then Miami the week after. So with that being said, they've also, the FIA has stated, and Liberty Media, that they do need to rework the race calendar if they are going to continue to add races, because they can't just be jumping. I mean, there was a meme where someone used like the globe and like went to all the races, and they're just flying back and forth over the entire world, and it just doesn't make sense. So logistically, if they change that, if the Americas races are all around the same time, European, Middle Eastern, I know the FIA director, Stefano Domenicali, has stated that there are certain race weekends that happen that weekend for a particular reason, depending on the place, depending on the time. So they have to figure that out. But hey, we saw this coming, and 30 races by 2030. Let's go.
Is that possible?
I mean, you said it's not, but if you can dream it, you can achieve it. Here's a funny thing that happened yesterday or today. Depending on when you're listening to it, could have been a few days ago. Protesters got on track at the beginning of the Berlin E-Prix. I feel like that's the last formula category you should be protesting.
Yeah, if anything, you want to be boosting that one up. I mean, we've seen protesters, on track before, but typically naturally aspirated categories, let's say.
I don't get it. I mean, this is the one area where Formula Racing FIA is trying to take steps to, make it less of a carbon footprint. It could be in vain. I know, if we really truly cared, we'd stop everything, stop oil production, all that, but that's just not possible. I mean, it still makes the world go round. But yeah, a weird one to protest, maybe protest the ones that they use the oil. Yeah. Weird look.
I saw one recently too where they protested as a snooker match.
I saw that too.
Orange paint or whatever.
I don't
jumps up on the table and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, I don't get it. Like, I'm all for your right to protest and
100% free speech,
and all that. But at some point, it's like I feel like this is more about you. And a quick shout out, and I said this earlier: Formula E street circuits. Did you know there are street circuits in India, Rome, Cape Town, and, Michael, London?
Yeah.
There's already a street circuit in London, folks, and it's in the E-Prix.
Sick. I had heard of the Egypt one, I believe, and South Africa. Yeah,
Cape Town.
Yeah, Cape Town. Yeah, with the tabletop mountain in the background there of the circuit. Amazing. Sick, and infrastructure's there for other categories to come and show their talents there.
Exactly. And you got to think Formula E is sort of the research category. So if any of these street circuits are a huge hit, you got to think maybe Formula One is going to be looking to be there in the near future. Rome would be sick. I think I watched that Rome race just per chance last year. And you see so many cool landmarks.
Like Coliseum, Central Library.
It's right down there.
Sick.
Very, very cool.
South Africa would be unreal too.
Yeah, Cape Town. Very cool. Not the same track that South Africa is trying to bring to F1 Yalami, but still very cool. All right, folks, the last thing here before we get out of here. Friend of the pod and long friend of mine, Christo Curry, he pointed out that the Brad Pitt F1 movie is not Paramount Plus. It is actually an Apple production. And an article last week came out on this. So there's a few new breakthroughs, a few new updates. Lewis Hamilton's production company, Dawn Apollo Films, is producing the film. Apple is distributing it. The storyline, and we've seen this storyline before, but doesn't matter. We're here for the action. Brad Pitt is a retired F1 driver. He is returning back to the field to mentor a younger teammate. That teammate's going to be played by Damson Idris. Very, very cool name. He's a young up-and-coming actor from London. And the film's...
talk to Damson.
Yes, Damson. And that was a southern accent. I don't know what I just did there.
Fly me to the moon.
Fly me to the moon. The film's being directed by Joseph Kosinski, who directed Tron Legacy and the new Top Gun movie. And they're going to be using some of the technology from Top Gun in this upcoming movie. Film is expected to begin the second half of the 2023 F1 season. And that's right. That means they are doing filming at actual events, and real F1 drivers are going to be part of like the background. The main characters obviously are Brad Pitt and Damson. There'll probably be some secondary characters. Lewis being one of those like kind of background characters, but you're going to get real F1 footage, real race weekend footage. It's going to be so cool what they do with that, kind of amalgamating the two and making it a whole movie presentation. Can't wait for it. Expected release late 2024, early 2025. So it is a bit of a wait, bit of ways away, but damn, that's going to be an unreal movie.
Sounds like it's worth the wait, in my opinion, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can hit me with that same storyline 100 times, and I'm all in.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, I just can't wait. I mean, if you saw Rush, and I think we all did, the cinematography and the car action was amazing. I got to watch that again. Actually, if you haven't seen Rush, check it out. It's a fantastic F1 movie. But that's it for this episode. We're going to leave you there. Next time we see you, it's going to be post-Baku, post-madness. I can't wait to see what happens during that weekend. But before we get out of here, and I forgot to do this last week, please, if you're listening on YouTube, smash that like button. Am I right, fellas?
Smash it up.
Smash it up. Hit the bell button too so you know when new things are coming out. And subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube. Most of you listening on YouTube right now are not subscribed. And we'd really appreciate it because we want to grow this podcast. We want to get to more people because we think we've got a good message to get out to the world.
Yeah, keeping it casual as always.
We're keeping it casual. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, sorry in advance for all of the visual stuff that we've been doing lately. We just got to keep that YouTube crowd happy. But still, in light of that, give us that 5-star rating, subscribe to the podcast, and give us a review. We'd love to hear what you think about this podcast. We're open to criticism, how we can change, how we can make this better. We want to make this the best product possible for everyone listening. And finally, if you're on that phone 24/7 on Instagram, on TikTok, we're on there too. We got the YouTube shorts. We're even on Facebook. I mean, why not? At F1 Casuals. Give us a follow. We're posting reels. We're posting content every day. We'd love for you to follow along with this journey with F1 Casuals, growing to be the biggest F1 podcast the world has ever seen. Ain't that right, fellas?
Thank you for your support.
And that's it, folks. Until next time, it's lights out.
See you on the grid.